For the past couple of weeks, I keep seeing this video making the rounds, or at least a thumbnail of the video on Instagram posts for some reason. Essentially just discussing the, perceived epidemic of meanness, right? People are very mean, right? This video discusses that sort of, sentiment, that people are just incredibly mean nowadays, right? Especially on the internet, right? And if you have paid attention to the direction a lot of social media spaces are going, there's just this, just vile treatment of other people, vile words being said to other people, constantly joking about other people, making fun of other people, that sort of thing. At least this seems to be the perception of what's going on. There are very concrete realities mixed into this, but we'll get to that later. Regardless, I haven't watched the video. I watched maybe 5 minutes, and regardless, it was posted over a year ago. So this is something that we've had a lot of time to sit on and process, and I think has only worsened since then. But essentially, the beginning of it kind of lowers the stakes. It's okay, well, this whole seeing everybody as mean and all the young people as degenerates, this is just the cycle of civilization, right? This is every single civilization for thousands of years has been young people don't know what they're doing and they're kind of stupid, and also some of them are really mean or kind of degenerate or blah, 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 whatever, right? Which there is, I think, very obvious truths, at least partial truths in there. A lot of it's just grumpy old people, right? Again, this is just the cycle of civilization. We're living through the same stuff now, but no more nuance. I want to look at why people might be getting more mean, if that really is the case. Different forces such as social media, and I think, again, I haven't watched the full video, but eventually he brings up neoliberalism. I don't know how that ties in, but it ties in somehow, right? Different forces obviously contribute to this, but one thing that I think is a very unspoken aspect of all of it, again, you can say social media and the comfort of, hiding behind, an anonymous mask and blah, 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 and you can say this or that and this or that. One thing that I think is pivotal and is almost more important than anything else is, using the most concise terms I can, which is not saying much, is this insatiable lust to be niche, right? This unending quest for the maximum amount of nicheness that a lot of, I would say, if I'm not going to say everybody is chasing after this, because some people simply aren't as attuned to social and cultural movements and relations to think that this is a good end to try to achieve, right? Some people just aren't either that in tune, they aren't that smart, and honestly, these are probably people that are happier, so whatever, right? But I would say there's a certain point past which on the IQ bell curve that a lot of people, our age, a lot of young adults, they're just trying to be the most niche, the coolest, most unique person they possibly can be, right? And I think that there's a couple things that play into this, things that Gen Zers are kind of disposed to, right? I don't think this is a crazy thing to say, but Zoomers, broadly speaking, right, at least those who are this, culturally and socially either competent to hyper aware, that sort of range. A lot of these people we're just romantics, guys. We're just a generation of romantics. A lot of people think the world is collapsing around us and that everything sucks, and which is a valid thing to say. And, so naturally, not in an escapist sense, but almost in an escapist sense, you want to latch on to anything you can. You want to be, you want to latch on to an aesthetic or some sort of, one thing to dedicate to yourself. A lot of people coming to religious faith, right? I'm a Catholic, I'm kind of in that boat, right? So on and so forth. Those who are fighting very hard against the literacy crisis, those who just love all of their books. I kid you not, you are stacked on top of two of the book. I don't have a stand, guys. I don't have a stand. You right now, viewer, are stacked on top of a lot of different books, two of which are Brothers Karamazov and A Good Man Is Hard to Find, the collection by Flannery O'Connor. So, yeah, just letting you know that. I'm not LARPing, I do read these things. Some days I don't, but some day I try to, all right? I try. And again, maybe me even saying, also 100 Years of Solitude is in here, I think. Maybe me even saying that maybe I'm LARPing, maybe I'm that guy grasping to be niche, okay, whatever, right? So I want to talk about artists. Okay, enough of the distraction, enough of the side talk, whatever. Generation romantics, lock in. I want to talk about artists, right? Because there's a couple things, there's a lot of tendencies that artists have, especially nowadays, that I think might be like wearing off in a certain sense to a broader collection of people. Artists, broadly speaking, tend to, especially this generation of artists, really are not pro-social, right? These are introverted people. Have you ever met an animator? They're always drawing. They're always drawing on their tablet. They're always drawing. They just need to draw. They just need to draw more and more and more. I need like an animator, like Soy Jack. I must draw, you know, like billion, like, you know, whatever. Anyways, love animators. Animation's awesome. Great, cool. You're great. With these, I'm not going to say anti-social because that's not correct, but anti-pro-social tendencies. Art increasingly becomes a very personal thing, and with this personalization, there's like this self-referential sort of nicheness, right? That these creators either, you know, take on for themselves or is kind of expressed in their work, and that's kind of what their relationship with their work becomes, right? And I think if you have a generation of fairly romantic people, naturally a lot of the tendencies of the artist are going to, again, rub off on a broader sort of group, right? I would say naturally with a disposition towards like very idealism and very idyllic views and very, you know, sort of lofty, dreamy sort of thoughts and this deep attachment to aesthetics and so on and so forth, right? One, you're going to get more artists out of a pool of people like that, and second, even if people don't become artists necessarily, they're going to have at least share some of the same tendencies, right? Some of the same, again, temperamental dispositions, cognition, mindset, so on, right? Behaviors, blah, blah, blah. So again, like we said, a big value there is nicheness, is novelty. And so people are going to chase that as much as they can. They want to be unique. They want to be set aside from the crowd. And so they're going to, again, maybe performatively at first, but maybe they really get into it. Performatively read like Dostoevsky or something, right? Make stupid Yap channel videos. They might do that. They might do that. Who knows? Another aspect of this is purity spiraling. Everybody purity spiral. A lot of people purity spiral. It's kind of crazy. It's all over the place now. If there is an area of life that is at least somewhat philosophically meaningful, people are going to purity spiral. Everyone wants to be better and more ideologically or you know, practically coherent and sound and in alignment with ideals and so on and so forth, very abstract ideals typically. And so they're always fighting, going down and down and down and down and down. If you think like politics, for example, look at the state of like leftists, literally ever, right? Especially around this time last year, it was really bad. It was just all this infighting, all this crazy stuff. They're kind of like chilling out now because at least, you know, Mamdani got elected and other people like him are getting elected. So there's a little bit of unity there, but they're always infighting. What the heck? They're always infighting. In the other direction politically, and, you know, another, I guess, area in general, like religion, Catholics are very prone to purity spiraling, elite ball knowledge, but if you know what happened with the Society of St. Pius X recently, if you know even nicher traditionalist groups than that are, and you know, it just keeps going down and down and down and down until basically you have a bunch of micro cults that like elect their own pope or something. Like these guys will get their own family to elect them as pope and then just claim to be pope. It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of lore there. There's so much lore. So whether you look at this as a result of the chase after nicheness or just like a self-manifestation in a way, or just one manifestation of it, ideological purity. People just want ideological purity so bad nowadays for seemingly no reason. There's no more unity in moderation, or for that matter, moderation at all. And then third part of this is cringe culture, which is really dumb, by the way. Like, there is something to be said about the legitimate virtue of modesty, having sort of decorum in speech and behavior and humor and so on and so forth, right? Like having taste, having social sense, right? That is a genuine virtue. That being said, people will harass anybody for anything that is even slightly perceived as cringe. It's like, that kind of sucks, actually. That kind of really sucks, actually. So what you get from all of this is just this vain competition of like, yeah, I'm better than you, because I'm into this. I listen to this artist more than you. I'm deep into their albums, and you're listening to their top hits. Or I'm watching. I'm this ideology. I'm this religion and spirituality. I'm blah 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 blah. I know more about this philosophical movement or this art movement or so on and so forth, on and on and on and on and on. Everybody just wants to be the like maximally niche people. Everybody wants to avoid LARPing. What? Nobody wants to LARP. This is why LARPing as a term has gone mainstream in like slang for being a poser, right? It's just, you're a poser, you're a poser, you're LARPing, you're LARPing, you're LARPing, right? Accusing everybody who's not maximally knowledgeable about everything. There is no, you're almost not even allowed to have an entry level experience to any hobby or to any thing, period, that you want to pursue, right? It's immediately like, you're stupid and I hate you and I'm going to other you. I'm othering you. I have my in-group and all of my ideologically pure people, all my niche people, all the people who know as much as they can about every little thing that has to do with my thing, and you are not allowed here. Which at the end of the day, it's like, hey, moron, how are you going to spread this, right? If these ideas are meaningful, if this practice, whatever it is, a hobby, a religion, a philosophy, an art form, blah, 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 if these things are meaningful, how are you going to be able to share the joy, the creative power, the soul-giving experience of this with other people? How are you, this is impractical and stupid. If you don't let people have entry-level experiences, if you don't let people grow, you're just wasting everyone's time and kind of being a prick. You just have this insatiable desire to be better and smarter than everyone else around you. And it's going to lead you to being completely alone, right? Again, this is the artist's thing. Then again, that might even be outside of the purview of some people. Some people want to be so niche, so bad, they're willing to isolate the entire world around them, isolate themselves from the people around them, just in pursuit of whatever perfect thing they want. And there's also a perfectionism aspect to this. It's like, I don't know, it's just crazy. And inevitably, what this is going to translate to, once you get it into the virtual la la land in the black screen, right? It just translates to like harassment, being mean to people, leaving mean comments on people who are sharing very beginner level work or beginner level knowledge, or so on and so forth, about whatever it is they feel like sharing, they feel like participating in, and so inevitably they kind of end up getting pushed away from it. And I am genuinely convinced that this is where a lot of this, online garbage, this aggression, this meanness does actually come from. I am convinced of that, right? Oh, what was I going to say? I was going to say something good. I was cooking. And I do think that's where a lot of this tendency to just be mean online comes from, right? This deep desire to, again, to be ideologically pure, to be the smartest person in the room, the most niche person, does lead to this behavior, does lead to at least some of this meanness. You're not as novel as me, you're not as niche as me, you're not as smart as me, you're not as good at this as me, and so you need to stop LARPing, log off, lil bro, you're a cornball, so on. It's just, that's just not the point of like human interaction, art, hobbies, crafts, religions, philosophies, any of these things that occupy the vague notion of humanities, right? Anything that involves the human creative force and human morality, right? It's not the point of these things. The point of these things is not necessarily to be, again, completely perfect at it and ideologically pure, right? I think that that's just stupid. I think first and foremost, to not desire people to want to join you is flawed in and of itself. I think almost all of these things are necessarily pro-social. They involve human communication, human, interfacing. And so let that LARPer read 200 pages of Brothers Karamazov before giving up. Let that guy who doesn't even go to Sunday Mass post all the Crusader edits he wants in the world. Let that kid write their terrible fan fiction in the hopes that maybe they'll produce something of value in the future. It really is not that hard to be a kind person and encourage growth. We should not shy away from correcting people, but we should do so in a way that is positively encouraging and shows a great degree of love for our fellow human being.